Section 123 to 131 of the Negotiable Instruments Act contains provisions relating to crossing. Now, what is crossing? When there are two parallel transverse lines on a check, generally it is said to be crossed one. Crossing is of two types. One is general crossing, another is special crossing. Now we'll talk about general crossing. General crossing is covered under Section 123 of NI Act. What the definition speaks? Where a check bears across its face an addition of the words "and company" or any abbreviation thereof between two parallel transverse lines or two parallel transverse lines simply, either with or without the words "not negotiable," that addition shall be deemed a crossing and check shall be deemed to be crossed generally. So, what we find in this definition, the most important point is two parallel transverse lines. Two parallel transverse lines, it should be there. It may bear the words "and company" or any abbreviation thereof between these two parallel transverse lines, or simply two parallel transverse lines, either with or without the words "not negotiable." That addition shall be deemed as crossing and the check shall be deemed to be crossed generally. So, in general crossing, you will say drawing of two parallel transverse lines. It is must on the face of the check. So, the lines must be on the face of the check. They should be parallel to each other and it should be cross direction, means transverse. Inclusion of words "and company" is immaterial. It is immaterial and of no special consequence. So general crossing only two parallel lines with the words "and company" or maybe "not negotiable" like this. So it is called as general crossing. Then what is special crossing? Special crossing, this concept is covered under Section 124 of the NI Act. And here you will see there is the name of a banker. Where a check bears across its face an addition of the name of a banker, either with or without the words "not negotiable," that addition shall be deemed a crossing and the check shall be deemed to be crossed specially and to be crossed to that banker. Very simple. That it bears the name of a bank and the check is not payable to anybody else other than the banker whose name appears on the check. There may be addition of words or may not be, that is not negotiable. May or may not be, but name of the bank is must and the check is collectible or payable to that banker only. It cannot be paid to anybody else. Yes, in case some bank is acting on behalf of that bank, even then you can pay. But the bank should certify for and on behalf of this bank. So this is covered under section 124. Now section 125 covers one more important aspect, and that is who can cross a check. Who can cross a check? Because check is in different hands. Today it is in the hand of, suppose, at the hands of drawer. It can be in the hands of holder, like this. It goes in the hands of banker also, who is collecting the check on behalf of the customer. So section 125 of the Negotiable Instruments Act speaks the holder of a check may cross it generally if it is uncrossed, or may cross it specially if it is crossed generally, or may add the words not negotiable in case of both the types of crossing. So holder can do it. He can cross a check generally if it is uncrossed, or may cross it specially, generally or specially both, if it is crossed generally, or may add the words not negotiable in case of both the types of crossing. So this can be done by the holder. Then the banker who is holding the check on behalf of a customer, or the banker to whom the check is crossed specially, may again cross it specially to another bank. Suppose a check is crossed specially to State Bank of India. State Bank of India may cross that check to another bank also, or his agent for collection. I told you earlier also that a banker in whose name a check is crossed specially, it can appoint another banker as its collection agent also, or it can cross specially to another banker also. And this is called double special crossing. So it can be done. And of course, the issuer of a check, drawer of a check, he can cross the check. Generally, he can cross the check specially. Now we will talk about another section, very important section, that is section 126 of NI Act. And this section talks about the liability of the paying banker on cross checks. That what is the liability of the paying banker on cross check? First is that even in case the check is crossed generally. If the check is crossed generally, the banker on whom it is drawn shall not pay otherwise than to a banker, and where a check is crossed specially, the banker to whom it is drawn shall not pay otherwise than to the banker to whom it is crossed or his agent for collection. Very simple. If the check is crossed generally, it can be presented by any bank. It can be presented by any bank, and the banker on whom it is drawn shall pay to that banker. And in case the check is crossed specially, the banker on whom it is drawn, it will pay the check to the bank on whom it has been crossed specially, or its collection agent. So very simple. Two things are there. If it is general crossing, it is to be paid to any banker, and if it is crossed specially, it is paid to the bank in whose favor it has been crossed specially. Now, what happens in case the paying banker makes default? In case the paying banker makes default in making payment of a cross check as per section 126 of the NI Act. It's very simple. If a banker defaults in making payment of a cross check as per instructions given in section 126 of the Act, it shall bear the liability as specified in section 129 of NI Act. So it section 129, it talks about the liability in case a bank fails to make payment of a check crossed generally or specially in terms of section 126. So section 129 talks of the liability. Any banker paying a check crossed generally otherwise than to a banker, or a check crossed specially otherwise than to the banker to whom the same is crossed, or his agent for collection, shall be liable to the true owner of the check for any loss he may sustain owing to the check having been so paid. Very simple. Section 129 speaks that in case a banker fails to make payment as per the instructions on the check relating to crossing, means if the check is crossed generally, it should be paid to any banker. It should be collected by any banker. Okay. If it is crossed specially, it should be collected by or paid to the banker in whose favor it has been crossed specially, or its collection agent. So, in case a bank fails to make payment like this, then it shall be liable to the true owner of the check for any loss he may sustain owing to check having been so paid. Definitely, it will make for the loss.